Hi, this is Colin at sheetsresume.com, and today I just want to do a quick video about how to prepare for an interview. We get this question a lot because after you make a resume with sheetsresume.com, obviously the next step is to apply to jobs, get a bunch of interviews with your new awesome resume that we helped you make. And a lot of people are really bad at interviews naturally. It's kind of an odd format. You're being judged, you are, maybe not as prepared as you should be, or you kind of have to guess what to prepare ahead of time. You may not know what they're going to ask you, so it's hard to prepare. Um, so I've done thousands of interviews, either, interviewing candidates myself, shepherding candidates through interviews, or in my own company, Sheets and Giggles, hiring people for my company. And I've also been on the other end, of course, interviewing for jobs, both coming out of college and my early career before starting my company. And I've seen a lot of people make a lot of mistakes. And I'm going to go over maybe 14 or so questions that I feel are guaranteed to be asked of you during an interview, as well as some common rules for interviewing. So, first and foremost, some quick rules. Every question they ask you is going to be funneled through the prism of why are you a good fit for this job? So when they ask you about your background, they don't really care about the hospital you were born in or where you went to elementary school or how many siblings you have. They're really asking in the context of this role that you applied for. Tell me about yourself. And so think about that every single time they ask you the question, any question, intro it in your mind with, in the context of this job you're applying for, blah, blah, blah. And that will really help you understand how to answer their questions and not just start babbling on with maybe, the first thing that pops into your head. Um, Another rule I like to really commit my candidates to is stay in between 30 and 60 seconds. Anything under 30 seconds is a little too fast and a little too kind of like rapid fire back and forth, although sometimes that does happen where you're just having a natural conversation. And then anything over 60 seconds really starts to drag on. So just try to keep an eye on that clock. And if the number ticks to the next number, you're somewhere probably close to 60 seconds at that point, and you should wrap it up and move on. Um, and then the next thing that I really want to let you guys know before I get into specific questions is that you really want to lead the interviewer back into the interview. So it can be really awkward if you're answering a question and you kind of end it with like a non sequitur, like, yeah, and that's why I love traveling abroad. And then it's kind of just like, okay, well, let's get back into your engineering experience, right? It's just kind of odd. So you always want to like wrap it into, and even in that example, you can do it. And that's why I love traveling abroad. And I actually spent some time engineering remotely overseas and have really enjoyed the ability to do my job from anywhere in the world. You're just bringing them back into the flow of the conversation and you're making that interview really feel natural. And this all kind of gets to the broader point of an interview of that an interview is just a date. And it's maybe a weird thing to think about it like that, but all of human behavior and interaction, all human relationships, whether they're professional or personal, is kind of funneled through that like really like evolutionary lens of, relationships. And it might sound awkward, but you want to come across as you would in a date with someone. So you want to be available, but not too available. You want to be excited about the job, but not too excited. You want to, be a good fit for the role, but, have other options. Yeah, it's funny. You want to be confident, but not cocky. You want to be available, not aloof, but not, not overly, available and, too eager. So it's really, really funny how much these type of situations, these interviews mimic the dating world. So if you're thinking about this and you're like, oh shit, I'm really bad at dating, it's okay, relax. Just prepare for the interview. And that's kind of the cool thing about interviews versus dates. Actually, they do have that in common too. Dates, generally, there's like 10 questions that everyone will ask on a date. So you can also prepare for those maybe better too. But I'm gonna now go through some of the questions that you're generally going to be asked, no matter what job you apply for. That could be a paralegal or a lawyer position at a law firm. It could be a software engineering job at Google. It could be a business development role at a startup. You will be asked basically these 14 questions every single time. And then one more thing before we begin. is the more you practice your answers to these, counterintuitively, the less rehearsed you will sound. The more you practice your answers, the more you're going to know when to put the natural intonations, the right sort of emphasis on different words, the right pauses, the right, that's an interesting questions. And you're never going to sound like you're just kind of like making things up off the top of your head, or maybe that you're rambling or you don't know what you're talking about. And this is really helpful for people who are maybe not so gifted with extemporaneous speaking. So first question is, tell me about yourself. And again, they don't care what hospital you were born in, where you grew up, what your best friend's name is, your elementary school, your high school, maybe your college, maybe your degree. Tell me about yourself in the context of the role. Now, they're not going to say that second part. They're just going to say, tell me about yourself. So you're going to say, hey, I'm Colin. I'm now I'm blanking, right? I'm Colin. I've been in my career for about 10 or 12 years. I've been working in startups for the last decade. I've brought a couple different products to market. I have business development experience in both direct to consumer as well as physical retail. And I'm really excited about this role at X, Y, and Z because I believe that it leverages my ability and experience in A, B, and C. Um, and so like that's a really great example of just like telling about yourself, really high level question. Just bring them right into like why you're a slam dunk for the role based on your background. Um, a variation of this question, that's question number two, is why do you want this job and why at this company? Now, I can't tell you the reasons for this, but generally there's, a lot of great reasons. You're really interested in the work, you have direct experience in it, you like the problem they're working on or the mission of the company, you like the industry they're in, and you're looking for more responsibility, more autonomy, you are looking for more remote work or more flexibility, more growth potential. There's a bunch of different reasons why you want this job at this company, and you should think about your own personal reasons and have authentic ones to tell them. Question number three is usually like, tell me about your current job. So, what do you currently do? Do you like it? Do you like the people you work with? Do you like the industry? Tell me about your current job. Generally, quick tip, quick word to the wise, don't insult or flame your current colleagues or your managers. These people are interviewing you from the perspective of someone who will be hiring you as your employer or manager. And so even if you give them excellent excuses as to why you're leaving your current job and, hey, my manager's got this like culture thing and like every morning he makes us stand up and like say the Pledge of Allegiance, even if it's really weird and obvious and like totally relatable, they're always going to funnel every interpersonal problem that you bring up through the lens of, well, I'm the manager and this person's going to be my employee. So therefore, they're going to have a problem with me as well. So really try hard never to badmouth anyone or ever to say, I'm leaving because of this person. Now, of course, there's a truism, which is that people don't leave jobs, they leave managers. So it is possible to say something like, I currently am, struggling with management in the sense of I think that there's a lot more growth opportunities at the company that we're not pursuing, and I want to be more aggressive or I want more responsibility in my role. And unfortunately, that's just not laid out in the path for me. Something like that is fine, but really try to keep it about the abstract and not the people at the job that you're leaving. Um, and then why do you want to leave your current job? Same deal. I kind of feel like I just answered that. That's question number four. Um, and then why do you think you're a good fit for the role? Again, this is not something I can answer for you, but generally it's about your experience, your degree, your passions. And really quickly, this is a good opportunity to talk about values, abilities, and skills. So generally, when people are evaluating people for roles and interviews and on the resume, they're looking for fits from values, abilities, and skills. And so skills are the easiest thing to learn, right? With the right values, hard work and, passion for the industry and the right abilities, intelligence and education, you can learn any skills that you want to apply yourself for. So generally companies are really keen to hire people with all three of these qualities, the right values and culture fit, the right abilities, they don't want to work with B players, they want to work with A players, and the right skills, somebody who can hit the ground running. So why are you a good fit for this job? Why are you a good fit for this role? Just answer that question in the context of your values, your abilities, and your skills, and you can't go wrong. Um, why do you, let's see, question number six, what is your greatest weakness? This is kind of a classic. I always tell people don't answer one of the cliche answers of like, I'm a perfectionist, I work too hard, I beat myself up. Those are valid weaknesses, right? I feel like we all share those. We all have some level of neuroticism. Um, but I really like to answer my greatest weakness in an honest, vulnerable way that doesn't get too heavy or too honest, but that I can give an example of. And then I can maybe give an example of when it's bit me and then how I've overcome it and how I've been working to overcome it, as I've moved through my career. And I think that that's really the best way to do it. As an example for myself, I always say that my greatest weakness is probably my overconfidence. I believe that I can do anything without even having the experience or the education to do it. And that's definitely bitten me in the ass before. And it probably comes from the fact that I like had blowaway grades as a kid, like perfect score on my SAT. Never really had to study too hard in order to have top grades in the class. And I've really had to, in my career, understand that not everything comes easy and that I really need to apply myself and put in the hours and put in the work in order to understand a new subject or a new topic or a new responsibility. And so like that you're being vulnerable but also aware of your weakness and you're working on it, and I think that that's the best way to answer this question because it shows that you're a real human being that's going to continue to grow in this role after they hire you. Number seven, the corollary to this question: what is your greatest strength? So this is something that everybody can answer differently. Try to pick something that applies to the role that you're applying for, so that way you can really say, like, look, I just think I'm the best in the world at this. I think I can crush this, and I'm really excited to apply myself in this position because of X, Y, and Z, which I've really had success with in the past. Um, and then number eight is share a time that you failed. So that is, I think, again, similar to the weakness question, but it might be a project, it might be a company, a side project you tried to start, might be a time you got fired or laid off. Make it reasonably personal, but not TMI, and try to make it a professional story as well. Although a personal story can sometimes be really, really well placed here, as long as it's not, again, too heavy. You're trying to make sure that they understand that you're someone who knows and recognizes professional boundaries, and you're not going to be someone who overshares in the workplace. Um, and then give me a time that you succeeded. Question number nine. I love this question. It's a great opportunity to talk about a project that you totally crushed, or a metric that you blew out of the water, or a goal, or a KPI or a quota that you just obliterated. Maybe you grew something from 0 users to 1 million, or from $0 to 100,000 a month. Maybe you built a product that got millions of users. This is a great way to say, like, oh man, at my last company, I just this project was so much fun. I loved working on it. We launched it, and I really want something to sink my teeth into like that again. Um, and then it's a great way to show your passion. This question: tell me about some place that you succeeded. Um, Number 10, similar to the failure question, tell me a challenge that you've overcome. This is usually like a blocker in the workforce or an obstacle that was holding you back that you creatively had to solve, or a problem that you had to figure out. Somewhat different than a failure, somewhat different than a weakness. It is showing your creative thinking and problem solving in the professional workforce. And so hopefully you have a story where you had a problem, it was kind of an obstacle, it was a blocker, maybe it was, at the time, it was felt like it was intractable, and then you came up with a creative solution to get around it. um it's a really problem solving question. Number 11, in this blank situation, so in this job relevant situation, what would you do in this situation? This is like a very common question. So they'll usually give you a real life example or a real life problem that they're working on. Sometimes they'll even have you do work for the company, hopefully paid during an interview, because I think it's kind of BS to ask people to do real work for a company during an interview. But they usually will try to give you a situation that they're currently struggling with, that the role would impact, and they want to see how you're thinking about that question and that problem that they're facing in the role currently. And I think that's a really good way to show your chops. So That's one that you're going to have to answer on the fly, but like maybe learn a little bit about the projects the company is working on, about the industries the company is in, and that way you're not blindsided with zero information when they present you the situation that they're in, that they need your opinion on. Um, Question number 12, what questions do you have for me? Very common, almost every single conversation, every stage of the interview will ask you this question at the very end. Make sure you have at least one question for them that is thoughtful and that is relevant to the company, the role, or the conversation. And you may come up with it on the fly that day. That's even better if you're talking to them and something pops into your head. Um, but at the very least, ask them about, hey, tell me about where you envision this role going in the future. Is this something that you're hiring for the first time, or have there been other people in this role? Hey, how do you like working at the company? How do you like your coworkers? How do you like the culture? Tell me about your journey there, your time there, things you've enjoyed. Uh, Keep it upbeat and kind of like peppy. But questions like that are all really good questions. Um, and then number 13, what salary do you want? I made a whole nother video about this called How to Negotiate Your Salary. But basically, try not to throw out the first number if you can avoid it. You will never be surprised if you throw out the first number, but you might be blown away if they throw out the first number. And so always answer that question with, hey, I'm just looking for the right fit for me at this stage of my career. I'm really excited about this job and this position. Um, but if you make me an offer, I'd be more than happy to consider any offer you might make and very flattered by that as well. That's a great answer, right? Now, they might say, that's fucking cute. How much money you want to make? And if that's the case, if that's what they say, then this is where I suggest that people lie and take your current salary and add on 20% to it. In terms of if they ask the question a specific way, which is how much are you currently making, that's what you do. Take your current salary, add 20% to it. There is no way for them to legally verify how much money you make, and no one will bat an eye because there are people in your industry, in your location, doing your job that are making 20% more than you. I guarantee it. And so take your current salary, add 20% to it, and they will not bat an eye. If they say, give me a range or give me what you want to make in this current role, that's when I like to go multiple choice. And I like to say, okay, we've got an X, Y, and Z answer here. I don't say it, you don't say that. This is what you're gonna tell them. I would be thrilled to come in the work every day for X. I would consider any offer over Y, and I would probably not consider any offer under Z. And just make sure that Z is better than what you're making now. So that way, at the very least, if they're a total jackass and they make you an offer for your lowest number, then at least it is something that you're getting a raise for from where you're currently working. So instead of a range, a two-number range, of which they'll always go for the lower end of the range, I like to do a three-number range, and you're kind of anchoring them on that higher X number, and hopefully the offer comes in somewhere around Y, that middle number. Does that make sense? Um, and then the last question, number 14, when can you start? I see people butcher this all the time, and I don't understand why. The answer is whenever you need me to. That's the answer. There's no other answer. There's no like, oh well, like my last job, I gotta give them 2 weeks notice, and like, well, I really want like 2 weeks in between jobs, so like that's 4 weeks, and ideally, like if I can fly to Mexico in between, it's an extra week, and like maybe see my family. So I said, like, no. When do you need me to start? That's the answer. When do you need me to start? And if they say a date that you cannot do, that's when you say, uh, well, I do need to give 2 weeks notice for my current job. I'd rather give that on Monday instead of today since it's Wednesday. So I'd rather get the offer, sign it, and then give them 2 weeks notice on Monday. And so that would put me right around this date for my start date. Or you could say, oh, actually, as part of my relocation for this job, I'm going to need about a month to move. So I can't make that start date work. Is that a problem, or can we do the week after? Right? That's a very easy conversation to have. They've decided they want you for the role. Don't screw this up at this point. Don't give them a lot to think about. The answer is, when do you need me to start? And if you can make that date work, great, make it work. And if you can't, have an adult conversation about it. Um, and then other than that, I mean, there's going to be a lot of job specific questions. You can go to glassdoor.com. I think that's a really great website for like interview specific or company specific interview questions. that you can look up and see what people have reported being asked in the past when interviewing at different companies. But yeah, other than that, I hope that this has been illuminating for some of you and helpful in terms of preparing for your job interviews. And again, if you ever need any more questions, you can check out sheetsresume.com for free job hunting advice and resume templates. And I hope this is helpful to someone out there. Thanks for watching. And if you have any questions about specific interview questions or anything that you've seen in the past that wasn't addressed here, just drop that in the comments and I'll be more than happy to answer your question.